Sapporo is known for two things. One, being the largest and coldest Japanese city north of Tokyo, and two, for brewing a famous, internationally recognized beer brand, fittingly also called Sapporo. Now, I don't like the cold, and if we're being totally honest, I don't really like beer all that much either. So, why on earth did I willingly choose to visit a place like this? The answer is simple: because of photos like these. Sapporo is an absolute winter wonderland. It holds the country's coolest winter festival every year in February, and while I wouldn't get to go see that, if I acted quickly, I would get to see Japan's first snowfall of the year. So my plan was simple. 1. Fly from Tokyo to Sapporo. 2. Survive the cold without so much as even a proper jacket. 3. Crunch my feet in the fresh, new snow. 4. Eat hot ramen and drink the local beer. And 5. Visit the secret Japanese chocolate factory that is said to lie somewhere in this town. It was decided I was about to spend 48 hours in the capital of Japan's snowy Hokkaido region, Sapporo. Tokyo to Sapporo is one of the busiest domestic flight routes in the world, so finding a flight was no problem. However, snow is known to occasionally cause delays. And in Sapporo, it was snowing. It was November, and while it was still regularly hitting 70 degrees Fahrenheit in Tokyo, it was already snowing up north in Sapporo. Thankfully, we were able to land safely, and I took the train from the airport into the city center. And can I just stop to say how precious it is that this woman literally fell asleep with her head on my shoulder for the entire ride? I was so scared, like I didn't want to move, I didn't want to wake her up. Japan is amazing. I reached Susukino, which is basically like the Times Square of Sapporo. And let me tell you, I was immediately struggling. I was slipping all over the sidewalk. I could barely move. If the Japanese people weren't so polite, they would have been making fun of me for sure. And so I headed directly to my accommodations for this trip at the Lamplight Books Hotel. Now, I rarely talk about hotels in videos like this one, because they usually suck, if we're being honest. However, this particular hotel is really cool. Now, I don't love the cold weather, but I have to say that just like grabbing a book and, a warm blanket and cuddling in with a hot chocolate to read has to be one of life's like great simple pleasures. At this hotel, there is an entire library and a cafe, and you can take books from the library and bring them up to your room with you. The rooms themselves are fairly small, and of course I recognize that hotel prices vary based on date and the time of year. However, I only paid just about $40 per night to stay at this hotel. Such a good deal, and it was so clean and cute and lovely. And if we're being honest, I needed a cute and lovely evening because I had lofty ambitions for the next morning, which included eating and drinking and being very, very merry. I woke up and I checked the weather, and it was about to be a beautiful day. The good news, beautiful weather means less ice. That means I won't have to slip all over the sidewalk again. But the bad news was that all of this brand new, beautiful snow that I came here to see was probably going to be melted by the time the day was over. I needed to get started. I headed directly towards the famous Odori Park. It was walkable from my hotel, and the best part about Odori Park, aside from there being, grass and crunchy snow, is that it's also where you'll find the famous Sapporo TV Tower. I grew up around snow, and generally speaking, I try to avoid it, but it's hard to deny how satisfying it can be to just crunch on it a bit. Basically ASMR. Of course, I had to go to the TV tower as soon as it opened. The entry fee is 1,000 yen for an adult, or basically like $6. You can decide for yourself if you think it's worth it. It's pretty much a simple lookout over Sapporo, but I found it charming. I actually spent a good amount of time there. Like half of that time was trying to set up this shot without anybody noticing. For real though, seeing the city with a layer of snow was really beautiful. But if we're being honest, I think what I love most about the TV tower is that it still has a lot of that like 80s, 90s style charm to it. It gave the whole thing a lot more character than some of the newer towers in Tokyo. I also love the TV tower mascot, which is just the TV tower again, except this time with a face and a little mustache. I mean, just look at this guy. That is the face of a friend. I forced myself not to buy any souvenirs, which was really hard, but I knew that I couldn't carry them around. I simply had too much to do, and it was already almost lunchtime, which meant that ramen was calling my name. Sapporo is the birthplace of miso ramen, which utilizes a fermented soybean paste as the base for the broth. It is super popular all over Japan, but in Sapporo, all of the best ramen restaurants are all together in one place, a place called Ramen Alley. The thing is, the shops within Ramen Alley are small, and so you will very often have to wait in line. And so I headed over there and got in the longest line that I could find, because the longest line probably means the best food. The longest line ended up being at Teshikaga. And it was actually the only line, because I got there pretty early, and this is the only spot that was going to open up at 11 instead of at noon or later. But all of that aside, there's no way that this is not the best spot in Ramen Alley, because holy moly. Traditional ramen in the Hokkaido region has butter and corn in it. Butter and corn. And that's in addition to the usual suspects like onions and pork. And also, because I'm an embarrassment, I ordered extra corn and butter and pork. Like, for some reason, based on the ordering screen, I guess I thought that I was just gonna get broth if I didn't add I don't know. This was genuinely delicious. Some of the best ramen that I have had anywhere. And the style of it really suits the weather. It's heartier, it's heavier, it's brothier, and the butter and the corn give it this richness that just sinks all the way down to your pinky toe, which was no doubt numb when you first walked into the restaurant. I really enjoyed this. I also loved getting to watch the employees working behind the counter. It's all so professional and regimented. Meanwhile, all of us customers were just all, huddled together and warm in this little tiny shop. It was very much a community experience. It also helped that everyone was drinking beer, which, starts pretty early in Sapporo. And speaking of beer, I am totally aware that all of the evidence at this point suggests that I'm a beer lover, full-on aficionado. But no, honestly, it is not true. I have, for whatever reason, never really clicked with beer. I'll drink it, but it's never my first choice. Honestly, give me a Coke Zero or any cocktail, really. That said, I do love history and I do love culture. And for Sapporo, the beer is a big part of the history and the culture. And so I hopped on the metro and off to the brewery. How am I supposed to say this? Off to the brewery we went. In truth, today, this location is really more of a museum. It's known as the Sapporo Beer Museum. And as you might guess, there's a lot of information here about the history of beer and the impact and introduction of beer to Japan in general. Good stuff. That said, if we're being honest, my phone was dying and I left my charger back at the hotel. So I wasn't really getting a ton of footage. What I wanted to do was save my phone battery for the main ticket item, which was this flight of 3 beers that you can order at the beer garden on the bottom floor. You wait in line to buy a ticket for either just one or for the flight of 3 drafts or whatever, and then they'll pour you your beer straight from the tap. From left to right, they are Black Label, which is the most famous version of Sapporo beer and their best seller, the classic 100% malt in the middle, and the Kaitakushi on the right, which is like their old school original recipe beer. I finished all 3 drinks. I know, I was surprised too. I'm not really good at differentiating beers, so I'll save you from all of that. But just know that without any social pressure whatsoever, I drank all 3 of them, so do with that information what you will. But as you might imagine, after a few beers, I was leaving a little bit tipsy, but I knew that there was something else. A magical and mysterious place that I could not leave Sapporo without seeing. Let me pitch this to you. Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, except in Japan. Well, this is a real thing, and you can literally visit anytime you want. Or at least during opening hours. It's called Shiroi Koibito Park. It has little rides, it's filled with beautiful lights, there are musical shows, and there are bubbles. And I knew sitting back at that beer garden that this park was exactly where I needed to end my 48-hour trip to Sapporo. It was a little out of the way, but eventually I made it. They have a tour, which was only 800 yen or about $5 US. So of course I did it. It is eccentric and it is magical, and I ate multiple pieces of chocolate. They have a sort of show-based floor at the beginning, which feels like something straight out of Disney. And then on the upper floor, you are able to watch how it all gets made. Shiroi Koibito, if you didn't know, is a brand in Japan that is very famous. Their most popular product are these little squares of chocolate between langue de chat, which is a French wafer cookie. Each one is individually wrapped, and they actually do make them right here at this factory in Sapporo. I even got to eat this special, large-sized one that they have for sale. The chocolate inside is so delicious, and the wafer is so flaky and soft. It actually is a genius idea. Beyond the tour, both the inside and the outside of the entire complex is just totally illuminated in beautiful lights. I mean, it certainly helps that I, visited during the holiday season, but I had way more fun with all of this than a solo traveler ever should have. I mean, the inside is stunning. It truly looks straight out of a fairy tale. And the outside is just as beautiful and also sort of interactive. Like, for example, I was able to kind of crawl around and like go underneath this thing and stick my head out of this hole. That is the thing that is definitely just meant for children. I should not have done that. Yeah, I had a great time. Such a great time that I genuinely forgot about the cold. And I mean, like, it wasn't that cold, but still, I was outside and having a blast. Fully satisfied, I headed back to my comfy hotel in the middle of town. I felt like I accomplished a whole lot in 48 hours. I don't really like the cold, but I do sort of like the comfy coziness that comes along with some cold related things, like reading with blankets, or eating a big old bowl of ramen, or drinking 4 beers and deciding to visit a chocolate theme park. If I like all of these things that come with the cold, maybe in a roundabout way, I do like the cold, maybe, sort of. Who knows? It could just be that I need to buy a better jacket and a new pair of sneakers. And when I do, I am sure that I will absolutely come back for another visit to the city of Sapporo. If we haven't met, my name is Josh, and I love you for watching. It would mean so much to me if you would like and subscribe. Here is another video about Kyoto that I think you will really enjoy. I hope you give it a watch.